Welcome to the SEC Cast.
This week, Arkansas lights up Mississippi State, Texas narrowly avoids an upset in Nashville, and the Marcel Reed-led Aggies take sole first place of the SEC.
Today we're going to be going over the results from this past weekend's SEC matchups and how our predictions held up. Then we're going to look ahead to the matchups this weekend and predict each game.
Yeah, so the first game of this past weekend was Oklahoma at Ole Miss. I don't really think we had a lot of expectations for Oklahoma this game. It's kind of a litmus test for how good is Ole Miss because the Oklahoma defense is good, as we know.
Yeah.
But this Oklahoma offense is just a dumpster fire. Like, it really can't get any worse. I feel like they burned Jackson Arnold's red shirt. They just fired their offensive coordinator, which kind of just feels like a cop-out move to me. Obviously, they weren't putting up points or doing anything on offense, but this just kind of feels like the nail in the coffin for them.
They did the same thing last year when they fired their OC and got rid of Dylan Gabriel, who's now a Heisman frontrunner. So maybe the problem is Venables.
I actually, that's interesting you bring him up. I was just going to say I still like Venables as a coach, but I think you can clearly see he's not the full package. He is an amazing defensive coordinator. We saw that at Clemson a few years ago. Maybe that's where he belongs.
The best possible coordinator duo you could have would be Brent Venables and Lincoln Riley. That would just be a dream come true, but I don't see that ever happening. And then maybe Saban comes out from retirement.
To kind of look at this game, Jackson Arnold did start this game. He took Michael Hawkins's original starting position back, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they actually were successful in running the ball against a really good Ole Miss run defense at the beginning of this game, and they stayed in it. But once they got behind and Arnold was forced to throw, he either sucked at throwing or he just started scrambling. And he's like such a scramble merchant, which I feel like is not good because it's not really going to get you anything, you know.
He's got one read and then he's off. He's running.
We saw, the J.J. Pegues, I think fourth touchdown of the season. He's their D tackle, one of their D tackles. Just put him in there on the 1 yard line and make that 400-pounder just punch it in there. We saw a little bit of Ole Miss explosiveness, which is kind of what they're known for. But without Trey Harris, I don't really think they're that good, to be honest. He is such a good player, and he really elevates Jackson Dart so much. But without him, they just don't really have that go-to guy. It's like in basketball. You need your go-to scorer to score, and he's their guy, you know? Yeah. They still pull out the win here against a really sad Oklahoma team.
But they looked bad.
They did not look good, definitely not. And I think as an Ole Miss fan, you're just counting down the days until Trey Harris comes back.
So Jason and I predicted every single game from this past weekend, and we used the PCS to do it. So if you don't know what the PCS is, it's a very simple and fun way for you and your friends to compete against each other just by using your predictions. After the game, you can see how well your prediction held up when you get a prediction score. This can range from 0 to around 260. Now, 0 is a perfect score, and that's what we're shooting for. And we give ourselves letter grades based off of the number that we get.
Yeah, so the final score of this game was 26-14 Ole Miss, which I actually had a pretty good prediction on this one. I had 30-10 Ole Miss is my prediction.
Yeah, so 30-10 gives you a 34 prediction score.
Oh, wow.
So anything close to 0 is pretty good. It actually comes out to a letter grade of A. That is pretty good. I predicted 33-10, which came out to 64 points, which is a B+. Still, above average. I'll take it.
Oklahoma is one of those teams that I feel like they're going to be pretty easy to predict on. Like we know what those games are going to look like.
Yeah.
They're not going to score a lot of points, and they're going to hold their opponent to less points than they average. But
yeah, we had very similar predictions here.
Yeah, we did.
Predicting Oklahoma to only get 10 points was about accurate.
Yeah,
that was about
exactly.
Right.
Let's take a look at this next game. Arkansas, Mississippi State. I won't say that I was like on upset watch for this game, but I thought Mississippi State could do something, and they did something. And that something was letting up 58 points to Arkansas.
Crazy.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylon Green was just amazing in this game. I think he broke a record, an Arkansas record, that is. He is the second player in Arkansas history to pass for 5 touchdowns and also have a rushing touchdown.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, this was just fireworks in Starkville here. Yeah, there's not even a lot to talk about in this game. It was just so, like, a punch in the face to Mississippi State. They had 5 turnovers offensively, and they allowed 673 total yards. You literally cannot win a single game if you do that, every game. So they didn't really have a chance. Their coach said they really took a step back this week, which I agree with, because we've seen them play okay this season.
Right.
They've kept with some of these higher echelon teams. They haven't won, but yeah, this is just a really bad game for them.
They were still in the game at least. This is basically what Arkansas wanted to do against Oklahoma State, because they had, the same amount of yards. They had over 600 against Oklahoma State as well. They just weren't capitalizing in the red zone. But I would have never guessed 58 points.
No.
I think Taylor Green just, all of his potential and his ceiling was just shown off here in this game.
Right.
He played his best game of the season. And our predictions were far off.
Yes.
Embarrassingly, I actually took Mississippi State to win this game.
Oof.
I kind of thought, just based off of their past few games, that they'd come out swinging with confidence. Despite losing those games, they still looked good. But they just could not stop Arkansas at all.
This is kind of what all the Arkansas fans were hoping Taylor Green would do. This is an interesting spot for them, though, because if he keeps playing like this the rest of the season, his draft stock could go up and he could get drafted. I think that they would prefer for him to stay for his senior year, but this is what you want to see. What I'm trying to say is this is what you want to see if you're an Arkansas fan. His ability to just make people, we were watching that game, he was making people miss. He was making some insane throws. If he plays like this, he's the best quarterback in the SEC, in my opinion, every game.
Wow.
But he doesn't. That's the Taylor Green effect, is that he's inconsistent. Regardless of the fact that this was against Mississippi State, this is very impressive, and you love to see this. Hopefully, if you're Arkansas, getting a good bowl is kind of the ceiling for their team this year. And yeah, they don't want to see him get drafted for sure.
I wonder how good Boise State would be if he stayed. Imagine.
We could be legitimately talking about a Boise State playoff run, because I don't really know if they can make a run. I mean,
they can make it. A run though.
They have the best player in the country with Ashton Genty, and then having Taylor Green play like this would definitely help them a lot. But.
Yeah. All right, so let's go over our predictions. The final score was 58-25, and I don't think either of us ever expected 58. But I had predicted Mississippi State win here, just based off of their past few games. They've been looking pretty good. I thought they'd have a hot hand. Despite losing those games, I thought they played well and consistently, and they just fell off this game. Like you said, the coach said they really took a step back.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious. So I predicted 21-17 Mississippi State to win. A terrible prediction. Especially when we plugged it into the PCS, I came out with 261 as my prediction score, which is an F. Anything above 260 is an F. I got 261. So
you can never predict 58, though.
No.
You predict Mississippi State to win, all right, but you can never predict 58. That's crazy.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I predicted a close game too.
Yeah,
that's not what happened. I had 28-27. What was my PCS score?
Yeah, you had a 204, which came out to a D. Yeah, I mean, we just both did really bad this game.
Yeah.
If you think you could have done better, you can go to the PCS online and try this yourself.
Super easy. All right, the next game that we had was Missouri at Alabama. This was not a fun game to watch, unless you're an Alabama fan, of course. And if you're a Missouri fan, then, you're gouging your eyes out, I guess.
Yeah.
Brady Cook got injured again, and I think it was just like a re-aggravation. It was a re-aggravation of the injury from the Auburn game where he went to the hospital, and I think he injured himself in a different place. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Missouri. They scored 0 points this game. Without Brady Cook, they are a bad team, and with Brady Cook, they are a slightly above average team, I think, because their defense isn't playing up to snuff. Their all-star weapons like Theo Weiss and Luther Burden haven't really done anything this year. And yeah, Brady Cook's a good player though, if he's healthy, but he's not. So
I also think Jalen Milroe kind of didn't take the biggest step forward after last week. I think he looked a little bit better, but he was still out there missing his throws. He really has got to work on his accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alabama keeps their playoff hopes alive here. I won't say they got right completely after the Tennessee loss. But they took care of they took care of business. But yeah, this is really, I think, more reflective on how sad Missouri is than maybe more of Alabama.
So I predicted 30-13 Alabama win. Obviously, Missouri came out with a big fat 0.
Yes.
Which gave me a B- as my prediction score.
And my prediction was 38-24 Alabama. And, as we said, the final score is 34-0.
Yeah,
I got the Bama score pretty close, but, I would have never predicted that Brady Cook would go out again, and then they would score 0.
Yeah, you got a C- for that one.
Okay. The next game I want to hit, I'm actually going to go a little bit out of order here. I'm going to go Auburn, Kentucky. I was never planning on watching this game because this was going to be terrible. Auburn did play better than I thought, though.
Yeah.
Kentucky came out with an early 10-0 lead, which, they have a good defense, and their offense can play football, I guess.
Sometimes.
But the story here was Jarquez Hunter. We've known that he was a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had 278 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 carries here.
Yeah, and I thought the Kentucky defense was their, strong suit.
That, as a Tennessee fan, that gives me a lot of hope that Dylan Sampson can do a little bit of the same next week. But yeah, I don't really see Kentucky doing really anything the rest of the season. I don't even think they're going to beat Louisville in their rivalry week game. Thorne tried his best at the beginning to lose this game for Auburn, but Jarquez Hunter was just too good. He wouldn't let him.
I predicted 17-10 with Kentucky on top. I was pretty close. I just got it backwards. I came out with a B.
Okay. I predicted 23-20. So that was pretty close as well. This is kind of similar to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know what Kentucky's like. Kentucky is a capped team when it comes to how much they will score.
24 feels like a lot for them.
Against Kentucky as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But,
you came out with a B as well.
Okay, that's not bad. All right, the next game is Texas Vanderbilt. Yeah, what could have been here, right?
Yeah, I know.
Quick question. Do you think that Vandy falls out of the rankings for this?
Yeah, I think they will. Just because
Really?
they have 3 losses. I think they'd be the only 3-loss team in there.
If they didn't lose to Georgia Southern, do you think they would?
Oh, yeah, they'd still be in it. Yep.
Because
and sooner, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. You can't really blame them that much for this game, except for the fact that Texas played extremely sloppy.
Yeah.
This is not what you want to see if you're a Texas fan at all after the Georgia loss. They had a bunch of penalties in this one, kind of like a Tennessee game.
Mm-hmm. Yours wasn't perfect either.
No, yours was not perfect. He did his best Peyton Thorne impression, I think, through 2 picks early on in this game. And Pavia fought. Man, he tried his absolute hardest. I never really thought Vandy had a chance. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater or something, but they just kind of got outclassed here.
I definitely thought they had a chance, and they had a chance at the end.
During the game, I thought they had a chance, but before I didn't think they did. But
yeah, and, Pavia did not do super great at the end, but at the same time, his receivers were getting lost. So I think he was trying his absolute best, and it just didn't. He was trying his absolute best, and it didn't hold up for them.
Yeah. Texas gave up 4 sacks and 10 penalties, which is very much un-Texas-like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so I predicted 35-16, Texas on top. It was definitely a lot closer than that, but I still got a B grade.
I had 38-13 Texas. What was my score?
Yeah, you came out with a C+.
Oh, okay. The last game we have here, which probably had the most implications out of any game in the country this week, was LSU at Texas A&M. This game felt closer than the final score implies the whole time.
Yeah.
But, as we know, Nussmeier just kind of flushed the game down the toilet at the end with, 3 picks at the end?
Yeah, that was super surprising. He looked really good.
He looked really good
in the first half. I think it was a PR for him, over 250 yards in the first half.
Yep. And
came out just basically threw 3 identical interceptions.
Yeah, they were bad. You're not happy in Nussmeier if you're an LSU fan here. I think they can bounce back. They still have playoff hopes and sort of have SEC championship hopes. They host Bama next week.
Yeah.
So that's obviously going to be a huge game, and Nussmeier can't play like he did in this one. The most interesting thing to me, though, is obviously A&M now is the top of the top in the SEC. They're undefeated in SEC play. And their quarterback situation is really interesting to me. When Connor Wegman was hurt, or excuse me, the game that Connor Wegman came back, I thought they should have stuck with Marcel Reed because he looked good and they were winning. And then, Wegman comes back. They just thump Missouri. He plays amazing in that game. And then in the Mississippi State game, he doesn't really play that well against a terrible Mississippi State defense. So that was kind of concerning, I guess. And in this game, he wasn't really playing bad, but they just didn't really get a lot of juice, especially when LSU was screwing up. They didn't really have that playmaker to push them ahead. And then in comes Marcel Reed, and he is just like
Lightning in a
juking
bottle.
everybody out. Like, he was going insane. And I think we're seeing the transition here. I think this was the game in prime time. Marcel Reed's career finally starts at A&M.
Yeah, he's the future. I predicted a Texas A&M win here. I thought it would be a lot closer, but I was spot on with that LSU score. I said 24-23 A&M on top. It came out to a B letter grade. I'll take that. It seems to be, my favorite letter here. What was your prediction?
My prediction was 33-24 LSU. I was still riding high on LSU, and I thought that Gary Nussmeier was the best quarterback in the SEC, and I believe I'm wrong. It is obviously Marcel Reed. That's not true, by the way. But anyways, yeah, the final score was 38-23 A&M. What was my
You got to be as well.
I also got to be.
Yeah, we were pretty close.
That one wasn't that bad, but so I have a question for you. Do you think Wegman transfers? He's only a sophomore.
I think he does if we really do see Reed stay the whole time. He honestly, I could see him going to Oklahoma.
I mean, they need someone. Arnold goes, I don't know, to Ohio State.
To a 9-5, probably.
Yeah, okay. Honestly, that's true. Ohio State recently has been the, field general merchant quarterbacks. They got Kyle McCord. Now they have Will Howard. Maybe they want to spice it up and just have, a runner out there with Jackson Arnold. But I don't think that Arnold's like bad necessarily. I think that Oklahoma's receivers are injured, I'll say, and their O-line is bad. And I don't think they have a guy who can call plays.
Yeah,
so I think
and their coach is not helping.
If Jackson Arnold goes to a place where he can, he has a good environment around him, I think he will be successful. But yeah, the transfer portal carousel is interesting every season.
So now let's look ahead and see how well we can predict the upcoming SEC matchups this weekend. We're going to start with Ole Miss at Arkansas.
Yeah, in the early lines, they have Ole Miss favored by 8, which I think is about right. This game's going to be a hard one to predict because we just saw Arkansas put up 58 points against a bad Mississippi State defense, but this is the other Mississippi team who actually has a really, really good defense. The best kind of way I can describe this is we're going to see Taylor Green follow up his kind of generational performance with a stinker, and so I have 34-14 Ole Miss. The other thing that makes this game hard to predict is Trey Harris's availability. If he's in this game, I don't see a world where Ole Miss loses.
Yeah, so my prediction is very opposite of yours. I see this staying in the 20s. Both teams are going to start slow, and we're going to see Arkansas win a close one at the end.
Okay.
I see Arkansas winning 26-24. It's at Arkansas. They just came off a great win. Ole Miss has looked bad like the past 3 or 4 weeks. I just don't have any confidence in Ole Miss, and Arkansas continues to prove me wrong each week.
Out of all the games on the slate this week, this is my favorite, I guess, to be an upset if it were to happen. Yeah, I mean, you really can't tell. I do think, however, if Arkansas were to win, it would be a higher scoring game maybe. But yeah, this one could go either way.
I can see that too. The second game we have is Vandy at Auburn.
So Auburn's favored by about 5.5 points here. Since it's at Auburn, understandable, but I'm going to pick Vandy to win this one, which this would also be considered an upset, I guess. But I think that Vandy has seen the toughest defense they'll see all year and in Texas. And if Pavia was able to play competently in that one, I think he should be able to play a lot better against Auburn. The Auburn crowd is underrated, Jordan-Hare Stadium. And, but the question with Auburn is always going to be what's going to happen with Peyton Thorne. Is he going to throw the game away to the other team, or will he not kill, will he not kill Auburn by himself? We also saw Jarquez Hunter have a really good performance in their last one. But yeah, I have 28-27 Vanderbilt. I'm just keep going to continue to ride the Commodore train until they play Tennessee.
Yeah, so the thing with Peyton Thorne isn't so much that he is a turnover machine, but he is a 3-and-out machine. He has a really hard time picking up third downs for you, and that is exactly what Vandy feeds off of.
Right.
Somehow their defense forces third downs really frequently. I don't believe in the Vandy defense being dominant in this game, but I see Auburn's offense not being consistent enough to move up and down the field.
Mm-hmm.
So give me Vandy to win 27-21 at Auburn.
Auburn can only rely on Jarquez Hunter so much.
Right.
And when you're one-dimensional, as they are sometimes, it's just really hard to win games against anybody.
Our next game is Maine at Oklahoma.
Wow, this is going to be a terrible game. I just what's the most amount of points you can predict Oklahoma to score? Maine's not good. Obviously, they're not even close to an SEC caliber team. I said 35-3 here. I mean, Maine's not going to score, obviously, because Oklahoma's defense is very good. 35 might be pushing it, though. I mean, they only scored, 16 points against Houston. Really? Houston?
Yeah.
And they probably have gotten worse since then, surprisingly. But I'm just going to go 35 here. Maybe, Arnold can find his find his footing, I guess you could say, against a bad team. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think their ceiling of points is around 40, and 40 is really pushing
against Kent State
levels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got Oklahoma winning this one 30-13. So yeah, like you said, the Oklahoma defense is really good, and I assume the main offense isn't all that. But what I do see is maybe Arnold has a pick six, or maybe there's a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and maybe that's how they get their 13. But yeah, this one's an easy pick. Give me Oklahoma to win.
I will say that's actually a really good point that you just made. Jackson Arnold has been a fumbling machine this season.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even played all that much because he got benched.
Right.
A lot of the times you see him fumble and they pick it right back up, but it's bad. He fumbles so much.
Maybe 13's high, and I should have gone 10, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, the next game is going to be Florida at Georgia.
This one's always interesting. They actually have a rivalry. It's called the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Oh,
of course, right?
I've heard of that. I didn't know that was the title of their. Yeah, that's interesting.
They actually no longer officially use that name, but this one's always played in Jacksonville, Florida. Georgia hasn't been playing great this season. They're favored by 18 here. But I'm more kind of interested on the Florida side of things. They're not going to lay down this season. And if DJ Lagway plays well enough, they could, one, make a bowl, which, maybe, and two, maybe save Napier's career at Florida.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, honestly. But I had 35-24 here, Georgia. I think that, Lagway's mistake prone. I think he'll throw a few picks to Georgia probably, but I also think he'll throw a few touchdowns. That's kind of, I feel like, the DJ Lagway we're going to get in this first year at Florida with him. But yeah, I think Florida will cover, but I think they're still going to lose.
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel pretty good about Florida in the second half of the season. I know that this is real. This is the start of their god-awful schedule.
They don't really have a lot to lose at this point. They have the competition, as you said, the new players. Montreal Johnson is hurt as well. So yeah.
Predicting Florida games in the weeks to come, I'm not going to be feeling this way, but I think this week specifically, it's their rival, and they've been playing better than anyone's expected, and Napier's fighting for his job. So I think at the moment, his players are still in it with him. Unless they get blown out this game, I think they'll continue to still be in it with him, but I do think this will be considered a blowout. Georgia wins 38-19. I kind of see Georgia's offense. I mean, Carson Beck had 3 picks against Texas.
Yep.
I don't see Florida doing that, but I just don't see him elevating his game to really dominate the score here. So give me Georgia to win 38-19. It's never close, but Florida can put some points up on the board. These next 3 games that we're going to be going over are all at night. The first one is going to be UMass at Mississippi State.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. We know that Mississippi State can put up points, especially ever since Van Buren, became their quarterback. You'd expect Mississippi State to beat UMass, but you never really know. I mean, they lost to Toledo, like 41-13 earlier in the year. Michael Van Buren is now the quarterback for Mississippi State, and he has played better than we thought he would. He can put up points. He's not perfect. He has a lot of things to iron out, but he's a freshman, and yeah, as I said, he can put up points. I had 40-20 here. UMass played Missouri earlier in the season, and they got blown out. So, yeah, we'll see how this one goes.
We know how good Missouri is, so
Right.
that's an embarrassing blowout loss for UMass.
Right.
Yeah, I really don't know too much about UMass, and I know that Mississippi State's bad. So I just said 35-14. I do see – it feels like Mississippi State is going to score in the 30s whenever they're playing competition like this. So, and maybe UMass, Mississippi State's defense is so bad that UMass can get some points on the board. So, yeah, give me Mississippi State to win 35-14.
UMass's highest scoring game this year was 35. Oh, this is interesting. They actually played Toledo. UMass played Toledo.
Oh, how'd that go?
And they lost 38-23.
All right.
So
Mississippi State, here you go.
I can see UMass putting up some points. Their highest scoring games were 35, and actually their most recent game they put up 35. So, yeah, Mississippi State's defense is terrible, so they could score a little bit. But with how teams have been scoring on UMass this season, I can see Mississippi State putting up around 40.
Yeah. All right, and then we have Texas A&M at South Carolina.
Yeah, this honestly kind of feels like a trap game for Texas A&M. They just came off probably their biggest win of the season. Marcel Reed is now the guy. What if he just screws up a bunch? Out of South Carolina team who is also kind of fighting maybe for their coach, and just for their season as a whole. They have a really, really good D-line, and Marcel Reed I don't think is going to be able to just run all over
That's true.
South Carolina like he did at the end of the LSU game. I will say, though, with Marcel Reed at the helm for A&M, I have a lot more confidence in them than Connor Wegman. So I have 30-24 here. A&M was favored by 4.5, which is pretty close, honestly. After what A&M will probably be in the top 10 now in the AP poll, and South Carolina will not be ranked. But yeah, I had 30-24 A&M on this one.
Yeah, so this is another prediction that's pretty opposite of yours. I think this is going to be the surprise blowout game of the week. We've seen South Carolina dominate Oklahoma, but when you really think about it, that was just Oklahoma being so bad that South Carolina was able to score nonstop almost.
And a lot of those scores were defensive scores.
They were defensive scores.
A&M won't let that happen.
And good positioning.
Right.
So I think South Carolina really has a hard time to score when it's all up to their offense. Lenore Sellers is going to be struggling against this Texas A&M front.
You're right.
And I think you're right about, South Carolina being able to wrap up Marcel Reed more often than not. But I think that with Marcel Reed, the Texas A&M offense is feeling good. The defense is feeling good. I think Texas A&M is going to blow out South Carolina here, 42-17. The only thing that makes me hesitate about that is it's a night game at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean that Darude sandstorm could get into Marcel Reed's head a little too often, and then he could start screwing up.
But still, give me Texas A&M to win. And then last but not least, we have Kentucky at Tennessee. If you want to hear our in-depth thoughts on this game, we're going to have a whole video previewing the game. This has been the SEC Cast. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe if you enjoy our content. Like I said earlier, we're going to be putting out the Kentucky at Tennessee preview and prediction. Please like the video. This has been Shea and Jace.
We'll SEC you later.